Hello, I'm Adam Jones, the Communications Director for the Tulsa County District Attorney. Thanks for joining us today. I have with me the District Attorney, Steve Kunzweiler, for our Truth Seeker Spotlight interview. District Attorney Steve Kunzweiler.
I'm looking forward to the interview.
So tell me and everybody else, why is your mission for this office find truth, seek justice?
Yeah, it really kind of cuts very simply down to the things that are important for our community. I talk about when I was in journalism school, and that was my undergraduate degree in agriculture journalism. I wrote about cows and pigs,
And soybeans, right?
Soybeans, right? Yeah, I can't leave the soybeans out. But I think a journalist's responsibility, and we don't see a lot of that in today's world, but a journalist's responsibility is to try to find the truth in the story you're trying to put on, right? I mean, whatever it is, it's a sports story, it's a story about, something going on with streets or roads, it's an interview with a governmental official. That fourth estate, that's what we call the press or the media. They have a really important responsibility. That's what I was taught in college. It's a very important responsibility. Make sure that you present to the public what is the truth about what's going on. So that's always been with me coming out of journalism school. And then coming to work in this office with Mr. Harris, he's actually the person that coined that phrase. And I thought, man, that is such a great motto. I mean, 4 words, find truth, seek justice. So the truth aspect is the most important. I'll interview people, and most of the people who would be watching this in our office would know that I kind of wrap up most of my interviews with, you're kind of put in a select group of people. There's not many people ever in the history of this planet who've ever been a prosecutor. I mean, there's a lot of people who got it graduated from grade school or high school or college, but as you go up that ladder, fewer and fewer people get to graduate law school, become a lawyer, and it's rare air to be a prosecutor. And so I emphasize with them that we are like the last line of defense when it comes to making sure we protect the laws and the Constitution of our country. So getting to the truth is the most important part of it, and I expect everybody in the office to be truthful and honest people, because the public is looking to us to be able to do that. And that's a hard thing sometimes, because you may do something that's embarrassing and you don't want to take accountability, but at the end of the day, it's all about owning it, right? Owning what's happened and being honest. And sometimes you'll deal with a police officer who thinks he's got a great case, and you have to say, well, you got holes in that. Or you have a victim's family that think that, they want the death penalty, and they're like, this isn't going to be the fact case that fits that equation. So being honest and open with those is an important part of it. But then the seek justice aspect is just as equally important. It is, once you figure out what that truth is, then what's the right thing to do with that set of facts, right? And the most important examples I give my prosecutors is, while we point the finger and we sign off on a piece of paper and information that says, hey, this person, we're accusing them of a crime, along that path of getting to the truth, there have been occasions where you realize that this guy didn't do that crime. Well, justice requires us to exonerate that person and make sure that we are going after the true crime breaker. And so seeking justice isn't a tag that says, how many years, or, what kind of a fine, or what can I, get out of this particular person. Seeking justice is kind of, it's I would almost say somewhat a moral responsibility for everybody on this planet. I mean, a parent who's dealing with a child, can you discipline that child because they did a wrong with the family rules? Yes. Does that mean you beat them within an inch of their life? No. What is the most just thing for the infraction that the child commits? What's the closest measure of justice for the person that's violated the law? And of course, I say there's kind of a spectrum on that, right? I mean, it's with children, I often say, hey, with discipline, it's either a lecture, a grounding, or a spanking. And in criminal law, I think it's much the same, right? It's like, okay, you need to stop doing that, or, well, you need to spend a little time in the county jail, or you're going to prison and we're never going to see you again, right? Lecture, grounding, spanking, it's that spectrum. So stealing things from a grocery store or something like that, that may more often be something that you're talking about a lecture. Spanking is easy, right? I mean, you molested a child, goodbye. We're not dealing with you. We're getting you off our streets. The grounding ones are the most difficult ones. It's like, all right, you're a repeat offender. What do I got to do to get your attention? So it's a good question. Why do we have that motto? And it kind of encapsulates a philosophy that I think has permeated the Tulsa County DA's office for decades. But Mr. Harris had the wisdom to just kind of say, hey, that's really what we ought to be marching to, and I fully embrace that. I think it's exactly what every prosecutor's office ought to be doing.
Well, I think you've talked about the attitude you want from prosecutors, but how do you, as the leader, cultivate a culture from the top down of people who are not all prosecutors? What kind of culture are you wanting to establish to manifest, find truth, seek justice?
So I grew up in what I would call a blue-collar Catholic family outside St. Louis. I was fortunate enough to have an intact family home. Mom and Dad were there. They worked their rear ends off to be able to put me and my three brothers through Catholic education. I understand what hard work looks like. I saw my parents do that. I saw the neighbors' parents on the street that I lived on do that. I was instructed by my family and my parents that, you don't just get things handed to you. You got to put your sweat equity into it. And then I was blessed along my path through life to have some pretty decent jobs. I was a landscaper that put me through college. I dug trees, I trimmed evergreens, I trimmed trees, I landscaped, I power sprayed. I was an important part of a company run by two brothers, Bob and Paul's Tree Nursery. And those two guys were probably maybe about 7 or 10 years older than me, but I was working side by side with those guys and kind of saw what their work ethic was and how they went about the business of, trying to show that they had integrity. And then, going through law and becoming a prosecutor and working under a judge up in Nowata County, Judge James Sontag, I tell people frequently, the two most inspiring people in my life that have kind of put me to be the person I am is my wife, Christine. She will guarantee be a saint someday. We'll be reading about her. But Judge Sontag was really instrumental in kind of teaching me things, and just little things that he would say to me from time to time. He's like, who's the most important person in the courtroom? And you think the judge or whatever, and he says, no, it's that court reporter over there. If you're not making sure you're communicating clearly, then nothing gets on the record. One of my old bosses, Larry Stewart, up in Osage County, when I first started as a prosecutor, he told me the most important people in the office are not the lawyers, it's the support staff. Those are the people that are going to carry the water that never get recognized. My mom was a waitress. She served other people. My dad was, he helped draft retrofits on a lot of big airplanes that the military ran. And he played a bit role, but a very crucial role in making sure those planes were safe for the people that flew them. All those little things kind of all coalesced when I became the DA to a point where I was like, how do I make sure that everybody sees the benefit of what I saw growing up without being a micromanager? Because I think if you micromanage, people think, well, nobody's given me an opportunity to show that I have something that I can benefit the office by. So I've incorporated all those things into a mindset that I hire people to be problem solvers. and that's whatever. If you're a receptionist on the front desk, I'm not expecting you just to answer the phone. I'm asking you to, if you see a problem that's sitting that's coming through the front door, solve that, and I will give you the rope, and as much rope or chain as you need to be able to get that thing done. I do that with my prosecutors. I do that with folks down in the DA supervision office, and it's amazing when you just release the engine, so to speak, of your people, and they feel like they have skin in the game. Man, things just take off, and so I'm so grateful. You know, we got a staff, I think, that has somewhat bought into that concept of my boss cares about me enough to say it's okay to make a mistake. And it's okay to think outside the box, and if I've got a good idea, he's probably going to implement that. You know, I think you do that in your home. You know, if you're a kid and you see something that needs to be cleaned up, clean it up, and then mom and dad are happy.
Yeah.
Right? So, you know, you build that environment, and I think over time it then sustains itself. And so, you know, we've got some folks who've been working here for a long time because they like the culture.
Yeah.
So, makes sense to me.
What do you want the people outside our office to know about our office?
Well, I think it's sustaining the system that has been put in place. I have many times gone down to Oklahoma City and have argued before the Court of Criminal Appeals. So these are judges who've sat on the bench, and they listen to cases argued from Ardmore and Lawton and Bartlesville and Guyman. You know, they hear cases from different DAs all across state. And repeatedly, what I've heard from the judges who are on the bench at the Court of Criminal Appeals is, I wish everybody would do things the way Tulsa does. That there's a legacy that's been embedded in this office all the way back to the days of Buddy Fallis. And and Buddy Fallis is the guy, I think, that began all of that. He you know, a firebrand of a prosecutor, but demanded competence and demanded integrity. You know, he came in after, you know, we had a DA in this office that ultimately became governor, but got indicted. And Mr. Fallis had to kind of, you know, reestablish why the prosecutors were so important and why they needed to be relied upon for their integrity. And so he built a culture. And then you had the likes of David Moss and Bill LaFortune and Tim Harris and Chuck Richardson. You know, those people I look back on, I was like, it's just like I'd never want to disappoint my parents. You know, I never want to do something that they would be ashamed of. I never want to be able to look back and think, man, those guys are not very proud of me. I violated the oath, or I didn't uphold the integrity. So I want to continue the mission that they created, protect our community, do it with integrity, treat every single person with dignity and respect. Whether they're a victim or a defendant, there's a reason why we need to do what we're doing, and that's to just improve our community. We're here for the betterment of society, and if we can demonstrate that, then maybe that filters out into other segments of the community.
Yeah. Last night we had an important event, the Trees of Remembrance event, which was very well attended. Everybody that I ran into there was very thankful for your leadership in continuing this annual event. But it exposes a reality in our community that we have many friends and neighbors and families that are celebrating Christmas without somebody here because they were stolen from them with a violent crime. What's your message to those people who are getting ready for Christmas but don't have that person with them?
Yeah, well, you know, as I've said, I'm a Catholic, and so I focus a lot on the end game more than the here and the now. I know I'm going to live. I know I'm going to die, and I'm going to be measured by what I have done during the time I was here. And I think all of us will go through that judgment. So I try and focus on what are the things that can provide the best example of how to live in a broken world. Heaven is heaven for a reason. It's perfect. There's not going to be any sadness in heaven. But in this world, we are living in a broken world in which tragedies happen and people are wronged. And yet we have plenty of examples of how to manage that. Everybody's carrying a cross. They may not realize they're carrying that cross, or maybe they don't think anybody else is paying attention to the cross that they're carrying, but everybody is carrying a burden. This world is one of suffering. I think we all suffer in our own ways, physically and emotionally or psychologically. And so, for those people that have been traumatized by violent crimes like we had with the Trees of Remembrance ceremony, the message is one of hope. The hope is that while you're dealing with the loss of a loved one through this Christmas season, know that hope always exists. And we do a little candlelight aspect of that ceremony in which we have everybody light a candle, and that's symbolic, obviously, of their lost loved one, but we also tell them to blow out the candle in complete darkness. And one of the things I emphasize with them is one of my favorite sayings. It's like all the darkness in the world can never extinguish the light of a single candle. These people blow it out, but what I love about candles is you can blow it out and light it again. You can blow it out, light it again. I mean, candles have endurance to them. But I want those people to realize to not spend their time in the darkness, that darkness is only the absence of light. And their loved ones are there. I used the example last night of, if you walk out today and you look up into the sky, you're going to see blue sky. But without the sun, God has created a brilliant creation so that when the sun goes down, you get to see stars at night. Those stars didn't go away. The only thing that shielded them from being able to see it was the sun. Okay, well, it's light, and that's what nurtures the world, but there is beauty even in dark times and difficult times, and you need to find where those little moments of light are, and find hope that it's a road that sometimes may be a lot of peaks and valleys, big things. I think what we try to do is kind of smooth them out a little bit into more like a hill, and help them go up that. We've had several families who've come back decades, right? We had a couple of families who've been there for 20 years, and they're only there just to help out the new families who've just lost somebody, and there's value to that. So the message to the people over Christmas time is it's a season of hope. It's a season of waiting. You'll have your opportunity to see your loved one at some point in the future. We're sorry they were stripped from you at this moment in time, but there will be a moment of reunification, and that's a good thing.
Yeah. Well, thank you for spending this time with us.
It's my pleasure to do this job. This is by far the best job on the planet, and if you want to be a prosecutor, come work for the Tulsa County DA's office.
There you go. Merry Christmas, Steve.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah. Thanks to all of you for joining us. Merry Christmas to you. We'll see you next time.